Welcome to a sports betting podcast from pregame.com for the week of January 15th, 2010. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, genuine professional bettor here in Vegas, star of the CNBC special on sports gambling. This is segment 3 of 6. Segment 3 of 6, big game preview. We're doing the Cowboys at the Vikings, and this is my official free pick. First, Vegas runner, tell us about the line in this game.
Okay, Minnesota opened as a 2.5-point home favorite. The total 47.5. As of today, it's 2.5, and the total's 45.5. Couple books went to 3, but you're getting plus 110 if you're willing to lay 3, or you got to lay 130 to get the 3. So it's 2.5's where it's still at.
When we talk about this, is really when you have the juice and you have the point spread, it's like a seesaw. You can move one up, and then the other one goes the opposite way.
Long term.
So effectively, because you can buy on the 3 or buy off a 3, just the same. So effectively, we're laying 2.5.
Exactly.
Now, before, I like to handicap the NFL, but I always like to hear what the experts say. So I got my pick. I'm gonna hold it back. When you look at this game, Marco, what jumps out at you?
Well, again, the theme's been public perception, and right now, in the NFC, people are in love with Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
The stock on Dallas in the last 4 weeks has risen as high as it's been all season long. And my question is, if you really look at that season-ending win streak, how impressive was it? They beat New Orleans. That's the game that got everybody's attention.
And I think in the fourth quarter gave it back to them, but New Orleans wouldn't take it. That's what people aren't talking about.
Then they played Washington at Washington on Monday Night Football, drilled them, and we know what happened to Washington at the end of the season. And then they beat Philly in back-to-back weeks, and they beat them soundly. But as we noted last week on the podcast, Philly was dismal this year against good teams. I think you brought up the stat they were 0-4 against.
And Dallas just owned them too. And since Westbrook came back, everything changed for the Philly offense. Selleck didn't get involved anymore. It just changed the whole rhythm of the Philadelphia team.
You had major bets on Dallas both weeks.
Yeah, back-to-back I rode Dallas against the Eagles.
So my question is Dallas as good as the public making them out to be? Because this line is
let's
low.
think about what they're saying here.
Yeah.
They're saying Dallas is the better team.
Yeah, and significantly, I'd say at least a point and a half better, because Minnesota's 8-0 at home. This team hasn't lost a home game, so
your point is
you got to add a little more weight than just the normal 3.
So you're saying this might be, if the teams were exactly even, this might be 3 minus 130 for Minnie. The fact it's all the way to 2.5 is even more significant.
Exactly.
Okay. So throwing one thing in that in the point you're making is if we can somehow explain away the wins over Philly, this Dallas team's no better than it really was a month ago when people were questioning them making the playoffs. I've heard guys on ESPN say that Dallas is the best team in football.
Left, that's what they're saying.
The best team left. So clearly there's been an extreme adjustment in public perception. We're seeing that in the line. So this would be an example, if you do believe there's value, because you always talk about, is if a line looks off and there's no reason for it, you might want to go the other way because they're trying to induce you to do something. In this case, we understand the reason, the public perception on Dallas. We're saying it might be illegitimate and there might be real value in the seeming bad line.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, what jumps out of you, VR?
That this game's going to come down to one thing: which team has more success passing, because neither's going to be able to run on the other team. You're not going to run on Dallas, and we know Peterson's been doing less and less for Minnesota as the season progressed, and you're just not going to run against Minnesota, who's second in the NFL, against the run. So it's going to come down to who could pass better, and I'm just not sold yet on Tony Romo getting the job done in a big game. I know he's already done it. I know he's this year so far. I know December they finally were able to win. They finally were able to win a playoff game. But again, like you said, they did it against the Eagles, a team they know well. So I'm just not sold yet that they could go on the road, and that I think the line's short for this situation. I mean, Minnesota at home, like I said, is 8-0. The team has not lost.
All right. Now, one other thing on Philly, or two quick things on Philly again to debunk them a little bit. One, they lost their center, and that's old school handicapping 101. Losing your center might be the second most important thing behind the quarterback. Number two is that Philly did particularly poorly against 3-4 teams. And this is, again, we talked about this on the podcast today in sports betting, and you can get all of our podcasts. Just go to pregamepodcast.com, and we have a daily podcast on sports betting. I'm the guest on Monday. We talked about the fact that sometimes the ESPN, though they don't think about the gambling side, the experts can really tell you something. And one thing Golick actually on Mike and Mike explained was that this Dallas team has this Philly team has trouble against 3-4 defenses. And this year they were under 500, I think, against them. Dallas running the 3-4. So matchup center, and we don't want to explain it away too much because Dallas has looked good, but maybe not quite as good as we think.
Right.
So I'm going with where I see the value. I'm a value player. I don't try to figure out what the sports books are doing. I try to figure out where the value is. And to me, the value here is on Minnie. I think a couple bad games for Minnie had everyone questioning them. This team had one of the best records in football. They've been blowing teams out. At home, almost picked the winner. I love Minnie. Now, unfortunately, I'm only 8-8 on my free picks. You guys have been really hot. We talked about you 15-5. We didn't get to talk about you 11-4-1 on your free picks here. You also have some futures that are still live on New Orleans and San Diego.
Yes, sir.
So speaking of that, we disagreed. I got my money right here. We disagreed last week.
Jets, Jets.
Now, I do write your check every month. So here's your money. I made a mistake betting against VR. I got about 10 emails.
Drinks are on
people say, stick to betting with Marco.
Hey.
But you don't want to go against the big guns.
But the funny thing is,
no one gets rich betting against VR.
All joking aside, you're not going to get rich betting against either of you guys. It's so fun beating Marco. It's worth it. All right, so we've got about 3 minutes here. Let's drill a little deeper. I like the value. I'm making my official free pick on it.
I like your Minnesota side. Honestly, one thing that scares me is Dallas has only been a dog 2 times all year. In both them games, they won straight up. But that adds to the fact that they're such a public team. So they're going to be favored in a lot of spots that maybe they shouldn't be. Because you look at their overall record, they're 11-5. So some of the games maybe they shouldn't have been favored. And even though they've won 6 of the last 8, the 2 tough games they had in that stretch was against San Diego and against the New York Giants. And they lost both of them games. So
as you look at that Giants team at the end of the year, that looks like a really bad luck.
Exactly. So I think this is a good spot for Minnesota at home.
No, the key is in those 2 games, those were teams that did have decent offense. I mean, San Diego's got a potent offense, and the Giants can score. They just couldn't stop anybody. But I will note this, and them being a dog, one reason why they are successful as a dog is if your defense keeps you in a game, you're always going to be live as a dog. They've given up 21 or less points in 14 of their last 15 games.
Oh, yeah,
the
Dallas.
Cowboys.
Yeah, but you know what? They're offensively, their yard per point on the road is 19.5. That's terrible. Yeah. So if they can't put up any points against this Minnesota, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. That defense is going to have to show up one more time and pretty much keep this team to less than 2 touchdowns. And this Minnesota offense on the flip side, their yard per point is 13.0. So that's a huge difference. When this team racks up yards, they're able to score points too.
All right. So last point. I think this line should be -3, -130.
That's what I thought too.
So that's it. Most TV handicappers and other handicappers, they like to deal in black and white. They like to deal in extreme comments. What we want to deal in subtlety. Is all we think is we're getting value at 2.5. That maybe this should be 3 and a little bit of juice. I think Dallas is good. I just don't think they're quite as good as people think. I don't think Minnie's quite as down as people think. That's the value. So, it's important. That stat about Dallas not giving up a lot of points, that's a potent stat. That's a heck of a D. I just think with the Metrodome, with Favre, let's be honest, great year this year, pretty much pick the winner at home. I think you got to say the value's on Minnie.
2 weeks to prepare.
All right, good stuff. Next up, we're going to touch on do a preview of the last NFL game of the weekend. And remember, you can get all of our videos at pregame.tv, or if you want to download and listen, go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.